welcome to the Let's Create Art Paint Along. Today we are going to be painting an adorable little fish, saltwater fish. If you purchase the tutorial kit, you have everything that you need. The canvas, the paints, you will want to get a bucket of water, a cup of water, and a paper towel. And then you may also want a blow dryer, like a hair dryer that you would use for your hair, and some way to protect the surface that you're painting on. Garbage sacks work well, tablecloths work well, boxes work well. That just helps protect the area from any paint you may get on it. If you do get paint on an unprotected surface, just wipe it up as soon as you see it. And okay, so today we are going to start with our background. We are going to combine white with a little bit of blue to give it a light blue effect in the background, because we're going to be using the darker blue inside of our fish, as well as the white with a little bit of the yellow ochre color, and then we will use the black for the eye and some accent markings on our fish. But to begin with, we are going to start with our background. So we're going to take our larger brush, and then we're going to start with the white. And when we pull the paint off of the out of the container, you want to, if you have like wax paper or a paper plate that you can dump it out on, that works a little bit better. But if not, then you're gonna want to make sure that you always pull from a side of your pile of paint rather than directly in it. That way you don't, if you have any paint on your brush, you're not contaminating your entire pile of color. So always pull just from the side. Whether that's in the little cups or if you've poured it out onto wax paper, parchment paper, paper plates, cardboard, anything like that works well. Alright, so we're going to pull some white, and we're going to start going just around the fish. It's going to be really hard to tell where we're painting white on white, but you'll see a little bit of a shine, and that is going to be the paint. So when the paint is wet, it's pretty shiny, and then when it's dry, it goes like a flat mat. So we're going to just outline around the shape of our fish, the drawing, and then just kind of get it out away from the fish. It doesn't have to be like a specific like straight line or anything. We just want to start applying some of the white, so that we can blend a little bit of blue in. So if you are getting big ridges on your canvas of paint, that is just the amount of paint you have picked up on your brush and applied. You can use a dry paintbrush with no extra paint on it to kind of smooth it out. Or if you're looking for a textured look, then you can leave it kind of ridged. So I'm just going to keep applying white. This is just going to put some wet paint out so that we have something to work with and blend with. I want my water to stay pretty light blue so that the blue of the fish pops and stands out. But you of course can have, your choice of how blue you want your water. Just keep in mind we are going to have the darker blue on our fish, so we want a little bit of variation in our water so that it doesn't just completely blend into one blob. Okay, so with you can rinse your brush out in the water if you need to. Whenever you rinse your brush out, make sure that you are drying it off on the paper towel so that we don't get any excess water in our paint or on our canvas. Now we're going to go into the blue, and we're going to pull just a little bit off of the side, and then we're going to start putting it on. You can do a complete straight across blend, like brush stroke. You can do a cross hatching brush stroke. You can make it really textured. You can make it really smooth. This is your water, and so you have the freedom to make it how you want it. I'm just putting some blue on, and then my intention is to keep it a little bit lighter right around the fish. So I'm gonna go around, but not right up to. And I'm gonna do it kind of a circular motion, but you can do straight across if you want a flowing sea. As you are going, you're gonna notice that the white that we put down is already drying. That's okay. Don't worry about it. You can always go back with a little bit of white, and then it'll really just start blending. So you can see mine is not really smooth down here. That's because my white is already blending, so I don't get that smooth effect that I had up there. So I washed my brush out, and I'm going to go back into the white, and then I'm going to just start blending into my blue, and then you'll see it just really start to smooth out. And then while we're doing this, we want to make sure that we are getting the edges of our canvas painted. So whatever color is on the front is the color that you want to pull off to the side of your canvas. That way it looks like a complete picture that wraps all the way around and doesn't look like something still in the works. So you just kind of work with your water and make it something that you like. You can always add more paint. You can always stop and blow dry and cover up. It is not permanent. It is not stuck on there for a lifetime. And it is yours to be enjoyed. So you do with your water as you see fit. So if you lose a little bit of your line, your drawing, it's okay. Depending on how dark you're putting your blue, it may still show through. It may not. It'll be all right. We'll figure it out. All right. Let's go right over here by his little face. And you can always come back and add more blue if you feel like in any area needs more blue or you want some darker blue somewhere. Or you can add more white if you feel like it needs more white. And then one thing we recommend is to dry it and make sure that you're completely happy with it. As the paint sets into the canvas and dries into the canvas, it will dry, like you'll see white coming through, and that is canvas that is showing through as the paint soaks down into the fibers. So you always want to make sure that you completely dry your painting before you move on or before you throw your paint away. That way you still have the colors to go back with a second coat or touch up any areas, anything you don't like, anything you want to change. So after you complete the water, just stop, give it a blow dry, let it dry, pause, go take a break, and then analyze it and see what you think of it before we move on. You'll want your water and your background to be pretty set. When you're painting, you always want to paint what's furthest away first and then work towards you. So in this instance, the water is behind the fish in a sense. And so we want to do that first. We want the background first. And then we're going to put our fish on top. This will also, as long as we get the background main space done the way that we're happy with, we can always pull our fish colors out and then fix any of those edging lines that we may not have got close enough to. Okay, and make sure that your sides, all of the edges of the canvas are painted also. This is the #1 area to forget. We get so excited about doing the good stuff on the front and we forget the sides, but they really are important to a painting. And so you want to make sure that is done also before you call your background done and move on. So now is a good time. If you need to put it on pause and go dry, now would be a good time to do that. And then after you get it dry, look and see if you need a second coat. If you do, just do the same process that you did the first time over the canvas, and it'll change a little bit, which is okay, but you'll still have the same effect as long as you're doing the same brush stroke and motion. And then it will cover up any of those white splotchy dotty marks that may be still showing through. If you did a really good coat your first time of blending, you may not need a second coat. It is your preference, and you'll have to just decide as you paint, as you dry, if it is coated enough or not. All right, so let's dry. Okay, so we have dried our painting. We're going to move inside to our fish now. We are going to start with the dark blue area, and then we're going to move into the white and the yellow ochre area. Inside of the fish, you can choose which brush you feel more comfortable with, either your smaller one or your bigger one. It is completely up to you on which one you prefer. I'll use my smaller one just because most people prefer smaller ones, but of course if you feel more comfortable with your bigger one, use your bigger one. Okay, so we are going to paint the blue. At this point you have a couple options. You can use this blue straight and have like a royal blue fish, or you can make a new pile and add a touch of black to it and make more of a navy colored fish. If you're going to make a different color, you're going to want to pull some of your blue, and then you will wipe that brush off or wash it off, and then you're going to pull just a tiny bit of the black from the side and put over into your blue. The more black you add, the darker it's gonna get. So make sure that you're going little bits at a time rather than big areas. And then if you, let's just say I thought I was content with this color I mixed up over here. If you're using your brush to mix with, wipe it off so it's not fully coated. If you have like a plastic knife or a palette knife or a butter knife or a spatula or something, you can use that to blend your colors also. We just want to make sure when we're going into paint, we don't have like huge chunks of paint on our brush. Okay, so let's go with this color that I think I'm really happy with. I'm going to take a little bit on my brush, and then I'm going to start lining around the head. And then let's say like I start painting here, and then I think, man, I really wish this was a little bit darker. I wish this was a little more navy. You can take, once you get paint on here, you can do just like you did over in our background and blend little bits of black paint in on this color, and it will serve as a darker shadow area. If we got it too dark, you could add a little bit of white and blend in and make it lighter. If you wanted more of like a blendy effect and not like a flat fish, if you wanted some of that highlight and shadow going into your fish, you would just do the exact same method that I just explained. So I put down all of the blue that I had mixed up, and then I think, it's too flat. I think it needs to have darker area to it. So my blue is all wet. So I'm gonna go in with a tiny bit of the black, and I'm gonna just start making like shadow. And you can always wipe off your brush on your paper towel at any time. And then you can work that some, and then when you feel it start getting really sticky, add a little bit more of your original blue color in. Depending on what color you choose here, you may need 2 coats. The lighter the blue, the brighter the blue, the more it's going to need covered. So just do your blue, all your blue areas, and then dry, and then you can go back and do a second coat of the blue. The more coats that you do, the more solid look you get, the more like completely coated canvas you get. So if you feel like it looks streaky or splotchy, dry it and do another coat. The key though is to make sure and dry it, or you're just going to be applying paint on top of paint, and then eventually it doesn't really want to stick. So here on the top of the hat, I'm putting just a little bit of white, and that just gives the effect of some light shining in. So the bottom area of my fish is going to be a little bit darker, and then the top is going to be a little bit lighter. All right, I'm going to let this sit, and then I will come back and do another coat. Okay, so the next area here I'm going to do is white. But I do want to pull down that blue so it has like a fin. So I'm going to pick up, you can do just straight black, or you can do the blue with the black. And then I'm going to go really narrow. So I'm going to start right here, and then I'm going to go really narrow. So I'm barely pushing my paintbrush. And I'm going to go just travel along the outside here until I get a fin hanging down. So the harder you push on the paintbrush, the wider the stroke gets. And you want it a little more narrow at the bottom of the fin and a little wider at the top. And I'm going to just kind of fill it in. And then we'll pull the white back over some of the top area. And then there's going to be another one coming down back here. So we're going to come right off of this area and come down. Like it's hanging around out in the back. And that one is definitely going to be darker. So you're going to want the black with it back there. So blend some of the black in. And then the body curves here. So just curve that around. And then we're going to take a little bit of white and we're going to put up here on this fin since it's in the front. All right, so now we're going to go to this here, and it's going to be blue also. So we are going to do the same thing. We're going to add the blue in, and you can rotate your canvas if you feel like it's uncomfortable way to do a brush stroke. Just move your canvas around, or if you're afraid of getting your hand over here in what we already painted, just stop and blow dry it. And don't worry about getting these fish lines really straight. They're really not straight. They really are kind of curvy, and they're not just like straight lines here. So I'm putting my original blue that I mixed on. And then I'm going to start blending some other colors in also. And then right here, I want to make sure that it connects there. Okay, so I want a fin coming off the top. So I'm going to take the blue paint and I'm going to just go right along the edge and out. Okay, and then I'm going to take while this is still wet, I'm going to take a little bit of black and I'm going to put down here on this bottom part of the belly of the fish. And you can also use the black and do like an edging along here. Along the edge of the where the white is going to meet the blue. You can make that a darker shadow area there. And then remember, little bits of black. And then the longer you can go in one brush stroke, the smoother the stroke is going to look. I'm going to travel right along the edge up here on my fin. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the top edge of it. I'm going to come down and around. And then I'm going to take I'm going to rinse that black out, and I'm going to take some of my original color back here, and kind of soften up some of those lines. But I'm also going to take a little bit of white, and I'm going to go right through the middle so it looks like highlights, and a little bit of white. So just kind of smooth out what you got, but don't brush too much or it'll completely blend into one new color. And the goal here is to get some highlights that look like there's light hitting on the fish somewhere, but then there's dark areas also. So the more that you brush, the more it becomes a solid color. And we're wanting just some shiny, like, gills that have received some of that sunlight shining in the water. And you can always go back with some of your blue if you get too much white or you feel like you need to fix some of the black area. And then we're going to take a little bit and we're going to go right in between like our black up here on our fins. And then feather that down into the fish. Okay, so the front part of your fish is probably dry. If you need to go back and do another coat, go back there and do another coat. I'm gonna do a little area. This is gonna be white, and then this here, I'm gonna do some like yellow, yellow ochre there. But like right here, where the tail meets the body, I'm going to do a little bit of like a blue circular area. If you wanted to do a whole nother stripe of blue, you could definitely do a whole nother stripe of blue. Or you could just make this a really big white one. It is up to you what you want to do with that. So I'm going to just do a little bit of blue right here. And then I'm going to kind of go right up a little bit. I'm going to fill this area in. All right, so while this is wet here, just kind of pull it down until it like gently fades out. And then you can do the same thing up here. So we don't want like an abrupt, harsh, like ending to the blue. Just a soft little fade. Okay, and you can add some black if you want to make this the same as what we did here. Add some black, add some white. So we're adding in shadow and we're adding in highlight, giving it some depth and not just flat. All right, we're gonna wash our brush out at this point, and then we're gonna go into the white, and we are gonna brush from the tail in. So it's gonna be similar to when we did the background, and we're gonna try to stay away from our wet blue to begin with. So do your whole like outer part of your tail, and then work towards coming into the blue here. And you're gonna wanna paint kind of how the tail grows, so in and out. And then as we get close here to the tail, we are gonna pick up little bits of that blue and just kind of pull out like this. So just go out with it. And then when you get over here, you're gonna start going the other way. And you may need to stop and pull some more paint on your brush so that it blends. So at this point, you should be getting like a really soft blue coming through, feathering through your white. We're not coating every little area of it, just a few spots. Okay, and now we're gonna go back with our blue, and we kind of messed up the area right here where we started pulling out of it. So we're gonna put a little bit of blue back on there. And then you're gonna wipe your brush off, and you're gonna kind of do the exact same thing, only you're not gonna go as far, and you're gonna get a little bit more vibrant color. So we have some white, we have some light blue, and now we have some darker blue coming. The darker blue we really want to leave a little bit shorter. We really don't want it to go far. And then you can decide how many little dark blue fin designs you want in there. And then wash your brush out because you've now picked up the white, and you're going to go back with your dark area, and you're going to go in a straight line right along that edge of that fin. So this is going to cut off the body with the fin, from the fin, but we just use the color that we had put down on our body to blend out into our fin. So now we want to straighten that out and make it a really straight line. Like that. Okay, so the edges here of your white may look a little funny. If you think they do, there's two options. You can use black to line that, or you can use a tiny bit darker blue and just go right along the whole edge of your fin. You can also wait until the end and use a pen or a Sharpie marker if you're wanting it black. Just do a tiny bit and edge right around the outside of the fin, and it'll help give it some consistent, a consistent defined line. And then we're going to go the same way here. Of course, this could be black. You don't have to have the blue. And you can do it with the pen. You don't have to do it with the brush. Sometimes the brush is harder to control. Which is really not, at this point, you don't want to be controlling it. You just want to use the little brush bristles to barely feather your canvas. And that's what gets kind of a smooth line there. Okay, so now you're going to want to make sure that your blue area in your fish is how you like it. You can do second coats. You can add in any more shadows or highlight areas that you see that you might need. Make sure that you are taking it to the blow dryer and giving it a good blow dry so that you can really see how it soaks into the canvas when it dries and if it needs another coat. I'm just going to put a little bit more of a darker defined line here. Just give it a little bit of a shadow. And then I really want my back fin back here to be darker. So I'm going to give it that black edging right there and kind of pull it down into that area a little bit. Going to pull a little bit of edging here in the front fin. And then, of course, back here in this back fin. So the front is going to be lighter. That is your highlight area, so it's your lightest area. And then the back is going to be darker, but you still have a little bit of highlight. So just right here on where the main meat of the fin is, we want to add some blue, some white, just give it some kind of highlight there. and then just stop because we really want that to be set back. And then on your front, if it's not standing out enough, just add some more white and it'll pull it up forward. And then remember, if you get too much white, just put some more blue in it and it'll kind of blend in with it, and then pull it out so that it goes really smooth and doesn't ever just kind of end in an abrupt, harsh line. All right, so up here around our face, we're gonna pull some, a little bit of black right around the edge of the fish. And then we're gonna create the mouth. So here's where that little line goes, and then there's a little bitty inlet cut here, where the lips of the fish are. And then we're gonna pull the black around the bottom of the body. And if this lining is easier for you to do with a pen or a Sharpie, just use the pen and the Sharpie. You just want to make sure that your paint is dry before you use that, or the Sharpie won't work. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit of black right around where your eye area is drawn out for you. Just do a little bit of black right around that. This is the shadow that is gonna help your eye look like it's actually sitting inside of the head, the body, instead of protruding out. So you have to have the dark for the shadow and then the white and the black pupil to make it look like it's standing out. They all work together. So darks and lights are your key to making things have dimension in art. If you feel like your paintings are flat, then you just need to revisit where your highlights and shadows are. And the highlights are where the bright spots are, and the shadows are where the dark spots are. Okay. So if you need to blow dry, blow dry. And we are going to move on to the white area of the body. So I'm gonna pull my white, and then I'm gonna lay it in the blank space that I have left. And I'm going to paint in the direction of the body, so I'm going in long strokes rather than side strokes. And right up here on the top of the fish, it curves, and so that's the way that I'm painting. I want that brush stroke to flow in the direction that I'm wanting the eye to go. I wouldn't want the eye to go in a side-to-side motion on a fish that has a long, skinny body. This also helps give the illusion that it wraps around and that there's more back there on the other side. Okay, so I have the white down, and it's pretty shiny, so I know that it's pretty wet. I'm gonna take just a tiny bit of the blue, and I'm gonna go down here on the bottom, and I'm gonna give it a light blue tint. This is a natural reflection that would be occurring from the rest of the body and the water. It's not necessarily something you would think of just looking at it, but it's there. You want it to be light. And then, okay, we're going to go in with a clean brush in white, and we're going to go down into that blue and really just kind of soften it. We want it to be there, but we don't want it to look like our water is on top of our fish. We just want it to look like a hint of blue in the fish body. that is reflecting the water. Okay, while that is wet, we haven't used the yellow ochre yet. We're gonna use a tiny bit, tiny, like the little bittiest bit of black. And right where we ended our blue reflection, we're gonna add just a little bit of the black in there. And then, like, I'm putting that there, and I'm wiping my brush off. I'm gonna pull some white, and I'm gonna just kind of flow that black, which is turning gray, into the edge of the fish there. And then we're gonna work up. So we don't wanna work down into the blue that we just did. We wanna work up. And this is gonna be like a really light, really light gray. And then you can pull more white. Naturally, you would think that the fish is white, so we're gonna just put white on there. But there's always extra colors and shades in a white object, because white is light and bright and it reflects everything around it. So you add the gray and the blue, how much ever you like. And then we're going to take a tiny bit of our yellow ochre, tiny bit. And we're going to go over here in this area and kind of put some yellow in our fish. We haven't used the yellow yet, but we will. So it is in the picture, and so it would be reflected. So just a little bit of yellow, and then I'm going to go back with some white and kind of work that to a smooth blend. And I'm pulling that up also. I'm smoothing out hard lines down here and then pulling that up. So it's really light, and it's not necessarily something that you would naturally think that you see, but it's there, and it helps give shape and dimension to your fish. Now we're going to do the same thing in this other white area back here, only as I go to the back, I'm going to make this a little more prominent than I did there. So we're going to start with the white, and we're going to fill in the areas. And we're going to go right up here to our little fin that we made. Okay, so I have all of my space covered in white, so my area is ready to blend. I'm going to wipe off my brush, and I'm going to pull a little bit of blue, and we're going to do the blue down here on the body, and then we're also going to do it down, like coming out like another little fin. So a little bit of blue, and then down under the fin, we're going to make it darker. So we're just blending our light blue into our white until it's hardly anything. And then right here, it looks like my body and my water are mixing. So I want to pull darker blue down and around. You could also use the black. So when I go across this area that I already went to, I don't want a straight line going sideways. So I pull it up, pull that paint up until it just looks like it feathers in. And I'm going to do the same thing right here. I'm going to pull that blue into the other blue. And it'll be a little bit darker, and that's okay, that's what we want. And then I'm going to take a little bit of black, and I'm going to line really lightly all the way around. And depending on how much paint you use, you may have to do like 2 coats of your lining, or you may not. It just depends on how much you picked up. Or if you used your Sharpie, you're probably pretty good on your first go around. All right. So we have our darker blue, our lighter blue, and our white. And now we're going to go with our yellow. We're not going to do the gray back here at this point. We're going to go in with our yellow, and we're going to do the yellow up here towards the top. And you can leave yours more vibrant if you want it more of a vibrant color, or you can soften it and make it just like a hint of a shadow. You just want to make sure that you are smoothing it until it's really soft and there's no really like hard jagged edges that look like stripes or, you know, specific areas. We want it to be a blended kind of body. All right. Remember, you can always stop and dry and put more paint on an area or cover something up. It is not set in stone, and it doesn't have to stay that way. Okay, so I have a little bitty sliver left in between there, and I'm going to use my yellow ochre, and I'm going to go right in that space. This color is not the best at coverage, so it's going to naturally kind of be lighter. If you don't want to do the blending here, you're definitely going to want to do a couple coats. And I'm going to go all the way up to this other area. And you want to go all the way over so that you don't have like white spots in between your 2 sections of fish body. Because the whole body will blend together. All right. So I am also going to take this yellow color here, and I'm going to put back here in the outside part of the fin. So I'm going to just kind of do it like this. So I'm lightly pulling in, and it's leaving not a straight area. It's kind of just looking scaly and textured. And you can put this in, or you can leave it out. It's up to you. So I'm just kind of going back and forth until it's not a smooth straight line, but a smooth painted line. So it looks like it all flows together. So the outside area around the edges is going to be a little bit longer than going towards the middle. You can work it up all the way into it if you want. And then you can pull some white back through it if you decide that you need that. So you would just come back in this way. Just want to be mindful of your blue. You don't want to lose all of our blue that we did. If you do lose your blue, just pull a little bit back out. Okay, so at this point, I am going to jump back up to my eye and let the rest of this kind of sit for a second. And we're gonna go in with white. So we have our dark area set in. Now we're gonna put our white area of the eye in. So we're gonna go just right along the inside of our dark shadow that we painted with our dark blue. And make it circular. And then I'm going to wipe my brush off, and I'm going to get black, and I'm going to blob that right into the middle of the eye. So just like this. Now be careful because we do have the wet white around there. So if you need to stop and blow dry it, stop and blow dry it, or you'll end up with a gray eye. I picked up quite a bit of black paint, so it's really thick. And so the thick paint kind of helps it look beady, but you can do it flat if you need it flat. And then I'm gonna wipe that off, and I'm gonna take some more black, and I'm gonna go right around my white and just really smooth up that line and put our dark shadow area back in, which is gonna pop our eye out. If at any time you're doing this eye and you get it too much of one color, blow dry it before you try to fix it. If at any point you are doing the eye and you get too much of a color in an area, just stop and blow dry it before you try to fix it. Okay, I'm gonna take some of my black, and I'm going to line right along the top of the fish. This is just gonna help it like have a defined line. I'm also gonna take the black, and I'm going to go in between my yellow and my blue over here. Okay, at this point, if you want to add some water bubbles to your water, you can take the back of your brush, dip it in the white, and then put some water bubbles out here. You don't want them all to be in one area. like one line, kind of in the same area, just not in one line. And then kind of different sizes. And then that's where I'm gonna leave it with the water bubbles. You can decide how many you want. And then we're gonna do the same thing in the eye. We're going to put a dot of white reflection in our eye. And then you can fix any areas of black lining that you need to fix around your fish. Make sure that all of the areas in between the colors of the body are lined and vivid enough to give it some distinction. Anywhere around the outside that may need it, you can do that also. And I am so confident that your fish looks as amazing as any other fish out in the deep blue sea. And we thank you so much for painting with us, and make sure you send us the picture of your fish so we can see how awesome you did. And we look forward to painting with you again soon.